Bonjour, good morning everyone. Thank you for coming today. So last year on the day that we passed the 2024 budget, I warned Ottawa residents that the next budget, this year's budget, would be very challenging. I think at the media conference after the council meeting, there were as many questions about the 2025 budget as there were about the 2024 budget that we had just passed. And 1 week after we passed that budget, we had our first meeting about the next budget. So it's not news to say that we are entering into a tough budget process for 2025. My goal, as it has been since I took this job, is to strike the right balance. Mon objectif, depuis que je suis maire, a toujours été de trouver le bon équilibre. Il faut d'abord investir dans les programmes et les services dont nos résidents ont besoin. We must invest in the core programs and services that our residents rely on. We must invest in a strong local economy and in supporting the most vulnerable. And we must respect the cost pressures that our residents are facing. The higher cost of food, of housing, higher interest rates, and everything else, and not add to their burden with big tax increases. The challenges that we are facing are significant. Les défis financiers auxquels nous sommes confrontés sont considérables. I've spoken about them often over the past 9 or 10 months. I talked about them after the last budget passed. I talked about them at the first council meeting of the new year. I talked about them when we negotiated with the provincial government on the deal for Ottawa that was announced in March. I talked about them when I met with Prime Minister Trudeau in April. J'en ai parlé lors de ma rencontre avec le Premier ministre en avril. I talked about them when I raised the issues of PILTS and transit funding in August. Those challenges are reflected in the budget directions report that is being released today. Ces défis sont reflétés dans le rapport sur les orientations budgétaires qui sera publié aujourd'hui. And so is the balanced approach that I speak of, that I talked about in the election campaign 2 years ago. I made a commitment to the people of Ottawa in 2022 that I would keep tax increases as low as possible without cutting core programs and services. En 2022, je me suis engagé auprès des résidents d'Ottawa de maintenir les augmentations de taxes le plus bas possible sans réduire l'offre des programmes et services. The budget direction today includes a 2.9% increase for most areas of city operations. But the report also has a unique element to it. For the first time, there is a range of possible options for addressing the structural deficit that we are facing in our transit budget. There's a range of potential fare increases, a range of possible transit levy increases, a range of efficiencies and service reductions, and a range of contributions from other levels of government. The fact is, today, we don't know what the outcome will be from our negotiations with other levels of government. Depending on that outcome, we will need to apply different levers in order to close the transit gap. I remain optimistic. I remain hopeful that we will get the help we need. I've been having regular meetings and conversations with both levels of government over the past few weeks and even in the past few days. But if we don't, we will have no choice but to look at increasing the transit levy, increasing fares, and possibly reducing service. Je reste optimiste. Je pense que nous obtiendrons l'aide dont nous avons besoin. Mais si ce n'est pas le cas, nous n'aurons aucun autre choix que d'envisager une augmentation de la taxe sur le transport en commun, une augmentation des tarifs et une réduction des services. In the interest of transparency and clarity, the budget direction for transit is written with the full range of impact described for each individual option. I want the public to understand what a $120 million structural deficit represents. So, for example, the transit levy in the budget direction report has a range of 2.9% all the way up to 37%. 37% is the number required to cover the $120 million deficit using only the transit levy. The fare increase has a range of 2.5% all the way up to 75%. 75% is the number required to cover the $120 million deficit using only fares. If we were to apply some combination of all of the levers, the number would be lower in each area. Je veux que le public comprenne l'impact total dans chaque domaine. Je pense qu'il mérite de connaître toutes les informations disponibles. I want members of the public to understand the full impact in each area. I think they deserve to know all of this information. Let's be clear though, these are not things that we want to do, but there aren't a lot of other solutions left. Again, in the interest of transparency and clarity, I want to underline that the result of this budget direction is that we don't know yet what the total tax increase will be for 2025. The 2.9% direction is only for the parts of the budget that are not public transit. We may have to add to that number depending on how much other funding we receive and what levers we apply over the next few months. So if the transit levy increases, for example, the tax increase could be a little bit higher than 2.9%, or it could be a lot higher. I know there are already people saying, why don't you just impose big tax increases like other cities have done? I know from speaking with residents that this is not what they want, nor is it what they expect from us. Je sais, après avoir parlé avec de nombreux résidents, que cela n'est pas ce qu'ils veulent ni ce qu'ils attendent de nous. Les résidents d'Ottawa sont déjà confrontés à une augmentation des coûts dans de nombreux aspects de leur vie quotidienne. Ottawa residents are already dealing with rising costs in so many areas. I speak regularly with seniors on fixed incomes, with families who have rising mortgage costs and grocery costs, and with so many other residents who can't afford for us to add to their burden. De fortes augmentations de taxes pourraient nous aider à gérer notre budget, mais elles n'aideront pas nos résidents. Big tax increases might help with our budget, but it won't help our residents. And I was elected to protect the interests of our residents. It's simply not fair to pass the funding shortfalls of other levels of government on to our residents who are already paying more than their fair share. I don't think our residents want us to let the other levels of government off the hook for the shortfalls in transit funding and in payments of lieu of taxes. Je ne pense pas que nos résidents veuillent que nous laissons les autres niveaux de gouvernement se décharger de leurs responsabilités envers les déficits de financement des transports en commun et des paiements versés en remplacement d'impôts. The people advocating for big tax increases are basically saying it's okay for transit projects in the GTA to get 100% funding from other levels of government, while we, the residents of Ottawa, pay over half of the cost in Ottawa. They're saying it's okay for the federal government to decrease its property tax payments to us and keep shifting that burden onto residents. I don't think it's okay. I won't take the easy way out and add to the burden our residents are facing. A big tax increase certainly would not be the easy way out for our residents. Instead, over the coming weeks and months, we will continue to find savings and efficiencies as we have done for the past 2 years. We've saved more than $153 million in 2 years. That's the equivalent of a 7.5% tax increase on its own. For a property owner with a home assessed at roughly $500,000, that's a savings of about $400 per year. We will continue to fight for Ottawa's fair share. Nous continuerons à nous battre pour qu'Ottawa reçoive sa juste part. Je continuerai à rencontrer les responsables fédéraux et provinciaux pour plaider en faveur de l'aide dont nous avons besoin. I will continue to meet with federal and provincial officials to advocate for the support we need. I'm proud to have the support, unanimous support of City Council in advocating for that support. And we'll continue to work on the budget over the next 2 months so that when it's tabled in early November, we are delivering a solid plan for 2025 that protects core programs and services, including public transit, and that doesn't add enormously to the financial burden of our residents. The budget directions are just the beginning. Les orientations budgétaires ne sont qu'un début. There is lots of hard work ahead, and I will continue to bring a balanced approach to the budget. I will continue to defend the interests of Ottawa residents, and I will continue to fight for Ottawa's fair share.